Welcome back to day 9 of the 12 stories of Easter. Let's look inside of our egg today and see what's inside. Inside today's egg is a spear. Now let's go to Scripture and see what this tells us about the last week of Jesus' life.
Later, knowing that everything was now had been finished, and so the scripture would be fulfilled, Jesus said, "I am thirsty." A jar of wine vinegar was there, so they soaked a sponge in it, put the sponge on a stalk of hyssop plant, and lifted it to Jesus' lips. When he received the drink, Jesus said, "It is finished." With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. Now it was the day of preparation, and the next day was to be a special Sabbath. Because the Jewish leaders did not want the bodies left on the crosses during the Sabbath, they asked Pilate to have the legs broken and the bodies taken down. The soldiers therefore came and broke the legs of the first man who had been crucified with Jesus, and those of the other. But when they came to Jesus and found that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. Instead, one of the soldiers pierced Jesus' side with a spear, bringing on a sudden flow of blood and water. The man who saw it has given testimony, and his testimony is true. He knows that he tells the truth, and he testifies so that you may also believe.
In today's scripture lesson, we learned something really sad. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, but Jesus died on the cross. And the spear represents what the soldiers did to make sure he had actually died. And this is really important for what our last egg, which we're going to open up in 4 days. It's really important to know this fact, that Jesus did die. Now, we know this because the last verse that was read today, it says that the person who wrote this story was an eyewitness. That's somebody who saw it. So this person, and we read from the book of John, so this guy named John, he saw Jesus up there on the cross. Now, you don't experience everything your friends do or your family does. How can you know whether or not your dad or your brother or sister caught a fish? How do you know that your friend went to a baseball or basketball game? You weren't there, and you don't know until they tell you. And that's the story that we're reading through right now. These are people who were there, who saw it. They are the ones who are sharing this story with us. And even though we're not there seeing Jesus on a cross, we can take their testimony or what they saw and wrote down for us as accurate. Just like you would say, all right, my brother, he really did catch that fish. Or my friend, oh, she caught a foul ball at that baseball game. We weren't there, but we have people who tell us what happened. And the same is true for the story of Jesus. And so I hope that gives you a little perspective on why we're reading through this and why we are continuing to mark down the 12 stories of Easter. We hope to see you back tomorrow for day 10. See you then.